An adventurous grandmother has a run-in with tragedy.
Don't touch my arm!
Still, okay?
And the trauma team fights to keep this free spirit alive. A man clings to life after a deadly slide down a rocky slope. And a young minister is rushed to the trauma room.
Just check to see if he has pulse.
After being crushed by a speeding car.
The main issue here, life and death-wise, is his head injury. You got a pulse here?
In select urban hospitals, there's a rare breed of specialists, men and women of the trauma team, who deal with the most severe medical emergencies, trying to save patients in the first critical hour.
Who studies 15 years in university to work these types of hours and wake up in the middle of the night at 2 in the morning and come and do heart surgery on somebody for 3 hours. You don't do that for the money, no matter how much money you make. You do that to be able to help people, and ultimately that's what it's about.
Though young Kevin Raymer doesn't know it, he's just been delivered into the hands of the trauma team. Studying to become a Christian minister, this son came home for a visit and decided to mow the lawn.
We have 2 IVs, you said?
What happened would traumatize his entire family.
Our 6-year-old granddaughter saw it happen.
A speeding car trying to pass traffic on the shoulder caught the ditch.
And then he was thrown over 50 feet. Our son-in-law was kneeling beside him, and he quit breathing, and his eyes rolled up. But one of the cars right along at that time had 2 paramedics in it, and they jumped out and prepared him for the ambulance coming.
Despite his luck, he now lies unconscious with more afflictions than Job. With one arm snapped, both legs smashed, and his skull so battered his brain may already be beyond salvage, the trauma team searches for clues that will reveal exactly what his body has sustained and how they can begin to save him. Time is a critical factor, but it's difficult to examine him because he cannot communicate.
He's been comatose since the beginning of the accident, and he's been transferred here to us as such, so he's still comatose. Everyone who's going to be working should have a vest, because we're going to do x-rays now.
Okay, guys, somebody get his arms.
So for what Kevin cannot say, the team will let their technology answer, hanging on every whisper of hard-fought evidence. The team must scramble to beat the odds. Few survive being directly smashed by tons of speeding steel. And the doctors desperately seek the answer to the question that's foremost on his family's mind: whether Kevin will live to see another day. Outside, there is a new arrival. EMS rushes in a family matriarch, known to her grandchildren as their free-spirited gran. Now she lies shattered, her situation critical, and her life in the hands of the trauma team.
Brenda Perot, 55 years old. She was the helmeted driver of a motorcycle. Met them on the air.
Brenda Perot was out on her motorcycle with her riding partner, her husband, when the unthinkable happened.
We were just out joyriding, and I lost track of her in a sharp bend. So I turned around, I came back, and I couldn't see her, but I could see the bike. I was so panicking, I couldn't find her, and I'm yelling her name. Then I lined myself up with the road, and the way the bike hit, and I seen her. She was probably about 50, 60 feet away from the bike. I ran over to her, and I could see she was hurt bad. Her head was swelled up.
The blow to Brenda's head has caused an alarming effect. This gentle grandmother has now transformed and become extremely aggressive.
Left forward, don't touch my arm. Don't do that. Don't stretch my arm. My God.
We're going to be touching your arm, okay?
I said don't.
Okay.
Man.
No, wait.
The team takes this aggressive change in behavior as a clear sign that Brenda has sustained a brain injury, and this has serious implications. The force required to knock her head into this state would likely damage her spine as well. A dicey problem for the team.
So we have more people log roll. 1 for the leg, 2 for the body, 2, 3.
Okay, take a deep breath.
Okay. Just for a second.
Tell the doctor where it hurts.
They examine her spine.
Tell the doctor where it hurts. Where he's touching it.
Right there.
Right there.
Oh, right there.
And find fractured vertebrae. But what has the trauma team more concerned is whether Brenda may have sustained damage higher up in her neck. The team finds tenderness, a troubling sign.
Oh my God!
Their minds turn immediately to whether Brenda's high spinal cord is damaged, a cause for paralysis.
Press on your neck bones here. Wait. Hold still, okay? Don't move your neck. Does your neck hurt? That hurt? Okay, go. We got
The
it.
stakes just went up. They know that if Brenda's spinal cord is damaged, this grandmother could be transformed from a free spirit riding motorcycles to a woman bound to a wheelchair the rest of her life. Down the hall, the trauma team fights to save the life of a young ministry student.
Kevin was going through for a minister. He's a very gentle guy. He was mowing the grass.
A speeding car out of control hit Kevin as he was mowing the lawn. A freak accident that left a family devastated.
When our son-in-law found him, it was cataclysmic.
Now the trauma team battles to save this young man's life.
So has he been moving his extremities?
GCS of 5 or 6 when they emerge.
The GCS is a system for rating neurological function, where 15 is normal and 3 is just this side of dead.
So he was seen moving his extremities at some point?
Yes.
All 4?
I don't know about all 4, I know his hands.
His hands, okay. GCS best 5.
5 is bad, considered a severe coma, but at least his moving hands are a sign he still has some brain function.
So no more paralysis, that's for sure. No more paralysis. Just to see what he does.
They'll let the drugs given to Kevin during transport wear off to get a sense of whether his brain function is improving or deteriorating.
Still 40. 40? Did you put it up after that?
He's got a dislocated right hip. Pelvis CT.
They discover his legs are more than just broken. They're knocked out of the hip socket. If the blood is choked off, his leg is already dying.
In his legs, because he's obviously got a bad femur fracture here. This one looks shortened and externally rotated to me. Okay, let's get the Doppler then. Doppler here? Yeah, we'll do the Doppler, yeah, because no one feels compulsive. Here we go.
Using an ultrasonic Doppler, they will listen for any pulses of life in Kevin's leg. If there are none, he may lose the limb.
You got a pulse here?
I didn't get a DP on either one of these.
It has to be reduced, and orthopedics will be down here then.
In a bid to save his leg, orthopedic resident Dr. Hannah Samer will have to pull it back in place as soon as he can. But the conditions are less than ideal. Kevin's leg bones have been smashed into pieces. While one team member holds his hips, Dr. Samer will try to haul the leg back in place. The doctors see another ominous sign. They know resetting a smashed hip is excruciatingly painful and should have roused Kevin. And the team knows that the drugs cannot explain why he is still unconscious.
Should have worn off by now. He's not opening his eyes spontaneously or to pain. GCS is 3.
They seem a little unequal though.
And his eyes tell an even more troubling story. No movement, and his changing pupils all add up to a swelling brain.
Get to the CT scanner as soon as possible. So guys, the goal here is to get the CT of the head as soon as possible. Basically, the main issue here, life and death-wise, is his head injury. A lot of swelling. That's quite dangerous in that it can cause the brain and the brainstem to herniate down, and the patient will die from that.
Yeah. Are you going to CT soon?
Yeah, now.
Really? Yep.
The work on Kevin's leg is still not complete, and the limb's viability is in doubt. A Thomas splint, usually used for emergency transports, is quickly slapped on, sacrificing further treatment for the sake of Kevin's brain and his life.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's start wheeling, guys. Grab and wheel.
So while his parents anxiously await word, the team is racing off to CT to see if their son, the young minister in training, can still be saved. At Sunnybrook and Women's College Health Sciences Center, Kevin Raymer's life is on the line. A Christian minister in training, Kevin was mowing his parents' lawn when an out-of-control car hit him at highway speed.
His head left a dent on the car. He quit breathing and his eyes rolled up.
Since then, the trauma team has made an alarming discovery. His brain is clearly transforming behind his unconscious eyes, but just how severe Kevin's head injury is still remains a mystery. To try and understand what damage is going on in Kevin's battered skull, the CAT scan technologist is added to the team. She will search for the missing piece of the puzzle, a precise and detailed map as to what his brain and body have sustained on the inside.
Hit by some reckless driver driving at highway speeds on a regular road. Can you believe it? CT scanning everything. The head injury, how bad it is, we'll see. I can't tell.
What the CT scans reveal will not only hold the key to the team's next course of action, they will also offer a glimpse into Kevin's tentative future. And what the luminous images share is not good.
The brain should look quite different on a CT scan. Now you can see here a lot of tightness, a lot of swelling. You can't do anything about that surgically.
The chances of Kevin's survival have just plummeted. Unable to operate on his savaged brain, the team can now only work to minimize the effects of his horrible injuries.
The most important thing, maintain a normal blood pressure and oxygen level so you don't get secondary brain injury. If they have a low oxygen level, then the cells that are almost injured get more injured. And that's what really is worse for their outcome in the end. So that's our job to make sure their oxygen level stays normal.
Now the team tirelessly searches Kevin's body to rule out further threats.
So we didn't see that on the chest x-ray, so he has a punctured lung basically. With a lot of air, eventually that compresses the lung and causes major problems.
What the CT has revealed has the team alarmed. They're now fighting on a front they did not know they faced. They will race back to the trauma room and try to drain the pooling blood pressing against Kevin's lung before it collapses. If the team can't relieve the pressure on Kevin's lung and get it working again, his already savaged brain could be starved of oxygen just when he needs it most. Just 14 minutes ago, EMS rushed 56-year-old Brenda Perot to Sunnybrook and Women's College Health Sciences Center. By all accounts, Brenda lives her life to the fullest for her grandchildren, her husband, and love for the open road. Now she is in grave peril with a suspected spinal injury. The team is afraid she may already be paralyzed.
Do your legs hurt at all?
Yeah.
What hurts in your legs?
My left leg.
She reports pain in only one of the two badly damaged legs.
Can you move your ankles up and down? Move your ankles up and down.
On the right side also. Right side.
I can't.
This is a bad sign. Her broken leg she can move, but the other remains motionless.
Try to move the toes. It's very important, okay? Just try to move the toes.
Move the toes here.
Move the toes a bit. It's very important, okay?
Finally, a sign of hope.
No, this side here. On the right side.
Oh, that's
Okay.
right.
With sensation in her feet, there is still a chance an operation could maintain her mobility. But the team is not certain she is stable enough to go to the operating room. To be sure, they need to see X-rays. While Dr. Tremblay scrutinizes the cloudy images, she discovers something she hadn't counted on.
She does have a very significant pelvic fracture. This pelvic fracture is really life-threatening and will require multiple surgeries.
The pelvis contains a massive network of blood vessels, and when it is shattered, there is an extreme risk of deadly internal bleeding. Before they can deal with her spine, they need to get Brenda prepped and off to surgery.
We're going to take you home to an operation tonight to your pelvic bone. It's pretty badly broken. The nurses have to get all these rings off you. Yeah.
Before your fingers swell, I mean.
You're going to lose your fingers.
To get her ready for surgery, the team needs to sacrifice the one symbol of her husband she has in the trauma room. The ring he had made for their 25th anniversary. Her life in the balance, she is wheeled to the operating room with nothing but her thoughts. Whether she's seen all of her grandchildren for the last time is a question that is burning in the air. So for the grandchildren who love her, for the ones who will never know her, she will only leave behind the lessons she has taught, the memories, and her beloved husband who would mourn her loss.
God, it's pretty scary.
The tension in surgery runs high. Brenda's life and all the lives she touches are now in the surgeon's hands. Just 20 minutes ago, 77-year-old Fred Farnsworth was helping his son move a dock at a northern lake when tragedy struck. Losing his footing, he hurtled 15 feet down a rocky slope. Now Fred is aboard an EMS helicopter in a desperate flight to keep him alive. Whether these are his last moments on Earth is up to the skill of the trauma team. They've all seen patients who have fallen much less and didn't make it. The doctors are anxious to know what threatens the life of this great-grandfather.
Oh, Jesus. Sorry about that. He's an older fellow, gets sicker with trauma than younger patients. Is that sort of as a risk factor that we can't change? You guys, let's log roll on and feel his back. Oh, God.
Fred landed squarely on his back. So they'll look there to uncover what clues they can.
Just concentrate on your back. Oh. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3, turn. Easy, guys, easy.
He's got an abrasion on the left side.
The point of impact is now obvious.
Okay.
Right against his brittle ribs. This would be devastating to a man half his age, but for Fred, it could be lethal. With this kind of rib injury, it's never a question of if, but how extensive the internal damage is.
If you're short of breath at all, it hurts to breathe. Oh, okay.
With Fred's left lung taking in almost no air, he won't last long in this condition. But to fix it, the team needs to know more.
Starting at the top, this is the first rib here. You have fracture the second rib, third rib, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh.
Every rib on Fred's left side is smashed. The pain would be excruciating.
He's getting tired of...
You get tired of breathing when it hurts so much, and you may actually go into respiratory arrest.
Respiratory arrest at Fred's age would likely kill him, and would at the very least shorten his life expectancy. The team will act quickly and try to stave off the attack.
Do a quick ultrasound here on you, sir.
The trauma team will carefully look below the broken ribs to rule out worst-case scenarios for the lung itself.
That black strip, that's fluid. It looks abnormal. Look there. That's free fluid, right? I got it.
That's why it's
Chest.
His lung has been slashed. Fred is suffocating to death from the gushing blood squeezing the lung shut. The doctors will have to cut Fred open. The team knows a deadly infection from this kind of surgery, even in ideal hospital conditions, can pose a serious threat to Fred's precious life. The team only does it as a last resort. And for Fred, with his own blood crushing the life out of him, they've reached the breaking point. They'll have to cut him open on the spot in a bid to save Fred's life.
Okay.
It's been only 33 minutes since 77-year-old Fred Farnsworth was rushed to the trauma room after a rib-snapping fall on a northern shoreline. Now doctors race to alleviate the excessive bleeding in Fred's chest before he goes into respiratory arrest. They insert a chest tube, and immediately it starts to drain.
You feel short of breath at all? No. It hurts to breathe.
Though they've stabilized Fred's breathing, he still has mysterious signs of distress. But re-examining the x-rays shows Dr. Brzezowski only the chest was smashed in the fall. So something else is going on. But what?
Rib fractures can injure intra-abdominal organs too, like the liver or the spleen. So.
Here in your chest, that's sore?
Right in my shoulder.
Dr. Brzezowski is immediately put on edge. Shoulder pain is a classic indication of referred pain from an injured spleen. Fred may need a second, more invasive surgery to save his life. Fred already has the risk of the one surgery hanging over his head. A second would double his chances of dying from complications.
Oh, Jeremy? Good. Let me just scan his chest and abdomen. He's a big guy, so.
Dr. Brzezowski personally wheels Fred down the hall to the CT, where in the next few minutes, this great-grandfather's fate will be decided. It's been 23 minutes since Brenda Perot was rushed to surgery with a shattered pelvis she received in a high-speed motorcycle crash. Now surgeons hope they can stop the bleeding in her pelvis in time to save this freewheeling grandmother's life. The surgery is a success. The bleeding has been stopped. And another stroke of luck. Brenda's CT scan reveals that she has only minor spinal fractures in her lower back and will not require any additional surgeries. A miracle considering the tremendous impact of the accident.
Oh my God!
3 hours later, Brenda wakes from surgery, still shaken by her horrific crash.
You'll come out of it okay, honey. You're looking good now.
I don't feel pretty right now.
Oh, honey, you're still beautiful to me. You're with me. That's all I care about, honey.
Back in the trauma room, young Kevin Raymer is fighting for his life after a speeding car smashed into him, leaving him shattered and unconscious. Now the trauma team rushes to save Kevin's brain from any further damage as they attempt to alleviate his collapsing lungs. The team inserts a chest tube, and Kevin's lung function is resurrected to do what it can for Kevin's brain. They can now whisk him off to his leg surgery, which until now has played second fiddle to this young man's damaged brain.
In a patient who comes in with a Glasgow Coma scale of 3 and has a CAT scan that doesn't show a bleed that can be fixed by surgery, and then that prognosis is pretty poor, so I'd say at least 50% mortality in this case.
The odds are against this man of God. With a team fighting on several fronts, it will be a miracle if he makes it out alive. For the parents who raised this minister in training, it's their worst nightmare, knowing that even if their son survives, he will be forever changed. An idyllic day of country living turns tragic. While working on the roof of his house, 59-year-old Daniel Allen slips backwards to his uncertain fate. Now his wife fears 35 years of marriage is coming to a tragic end.
I was on the side of the house and just looked over and he was on the ground. I called 911 and because we live in the country, the helicopter landed right at the house.
When EMS came in to collect Daniel Allen from his farm, his vital signs were crashing. The helicopter crew raced him to Sunnybrook and Women's Health Sciences Center in record time, but it may not be fast enough. For the whole trip, EMS has been putting in extraordinary amounts of blood to keep his pressure stabilized.
His BP has been continually in the 80 to 90 systolic range. Now he's had about 6 liters of crystalloid as well. He's had 3 units of PAC cells.
How low did he go?
He went down to 70, 80 systolic.
A blood pressure this low is edging Daniel dangerously close to cardiac arrest.
How's your breathing feeling?
Trauma team leader Dr. Tremblay knows he must be bleeding substantially from within, but from where is a mystery, one they must solve quickly, because they know Daniel won't last long in this condition. While continually filling him with extra fluids to replace the draining blood, the team uses ultrasound to look into Daniel's body, searching for the source of the internal bleeding.
Right chest. Okay. And he still has massive sub-Q air rib.
Bad news. Somehow in the fall, his lungs have leaked air up under his skin, which makes the ultrasound blind to everything inside his ribcage.
Hop over to this one. Like I can find any window anywhere. This one.
The team will try looking from every possible angle in search of the key that will save Daniel's life. While internal bleeding is slowly killing this husband of 35 years, in the waiting room his wife is in shock and doesn't know if her husband will live to see tomorrow.
Oh, they did. Yeah, they told us it's pretty bad because they told us it would go either way.
At Sunnybrook and Women's Health Sciences Center, the trauma team is trying to solve a lethal mystery. Daniel Allen lies dying on the table from plummeting blood pressure and internal bleeding, a result of a serious fall.
So I had just walked down and just looked over and he was on the ground.
He now lies dying from internal bleeding that the trauma team cannot locate.
What hurts there? He does that. What hurts? Hurts up there, around your head.
With Daniel's condition quickly deteriorating, Dr. Tremblay has to make a decision fast. To go to the CT scan to see behind the wall of air, or go straight to the operating room, open him wide, and search for the source of the bleeding.
The red one. Yeah, get the red one.
You need fluid. Yeah. And call south of pelvis. And call here to...
She opts to race Daniel to CT scan. This way, they will be able to determine the exact location of the bleeding that is slowly killing him from the inside. His blood pressure drops. He's too unstable to even safely go the short distance to CT.
Pressure bag, Marge.
No, I don't have it.
With a line in his veins, they can manually and artificially raise his blood pressure.
Yeah. Pardon?
But for how long?
So go with this guy. Keep watching the vitals constantly. Call over here if suddenly there's a problem.
Still highly unstable, the team moves quickly in order to get Daniel where he needs to be. The scanner that will guide the team's efforts to keep him alive.
And you may never arrive alive. But yeah, if you guys could just have a room, like, don't open the instruments, but this can be for trauma lab.
Hedging her bets, Dr. Tremblay gets her operating team ready in case Daniel flatlines on the way to CAT scan. But even if he makes it to CT, there is no guarantee Daniel will live to see his wife again. After a vicious fall down a 15-foot rocky slope, 77-year-old Fred Farnsworth now finds himself clinging to life in the tube of a CT scanner. As the images come up, the team searches for the key to Fred's pain and to his future. Internal organ damage combined with the surgery needed to repair it could prove devastating for Fred. But as they examine and re-examine the images of his organs, the mystery deepens. His organs are all intact, so why the pain? The CT technician sees something off to the side.
Broken scapula. We can actually, we'll get his right here, and then we'll go from there because we need.
We didn't really see too much on the plain X-ray, but on the CT scan of the chest, we saw that he also has a fracture of the scapula or the shoulder blade in the back, so that explains his pain from moving his arm.
Great news for Fred. His pain is caused by a broken shoulder, not the deadly signature of internal organ damage. His shoulder will eventually heal on its own, slowly. But he's lucky to have avoided a risky surgery. Across the hospital, the trauma team is trying to save a young ministry student. Just over an hour ago, 33-year-old Kevin Raymer was run down by a speeding motorist.
As you relive some of the events.
After 4 hours of orthopedic surgery, Kevin is wheeled to ICU and towards an uncertain future.
I'll be telling his family, but he may have permanent neurologic dysfunctions. So we're dependent on somebody completely for feeding, for taking care of basic activities of daily living. As well, I will try to get them ready for the possibility that he may not wake up, but that we are dealing with a pretty grave situation.
Kevin's parents will stay by his side, knowing that if their son wakes, he will never be the man he once was. Eight weeks later, still at Sunnybrook, Kevin is alive, but the future of his mind is still in question.
Has us. The leg bolt has us.
Do you remember my name, Kevin?
I'm California.
It's Andrea.
Andrea?
Yeah.
Well, do we have the leg bolt in the summertime?
Kevin has been transformed from a pillar of religious strength for his community and a compelling speaker to a man struggling with the simplest concepts.
That decreasing with the formation.
For the parents who raised him and who will not leave his side, it's a grueling emotional roller coaster.
It's better over the week time. Each week you see a more pronounced recovery. And day by day he has improvement for sure. But each week
it's down.
Yeah,
So.
there are some days.
Yeah.
So why are you guys protecting me?
Why are we protecting you?
Why are you protecting me?
Because we love you.
Why are you
Because we
protecting
love
me?
you.
Why are you protecting me?
Because we love you, Kevin.
Thank you. Here you go.
Yeah, you're right on.
Here you go. You are not gonna be. Thank you.
How far their son will come back, only time will tell. It's been just 35 minutes since Daniel Allen was airlifted to Sunnybrook and Women's College Health Sciences Center, the victim of a 20-foot roof fall. Rushed to CAT scan, the team knows that the precious minutes needed to perform the scan could precipitate another potentially lethal drop in Daniel's blood pressure. Once Daniel's in place, the team can start to hunt for clues for his survival. But getting set up to scan, Dr. Tremblay sees a grim sign. He's crashing again. The nurses need to fight off another plummeting blood pressure spike, literally squeezing the life forces back into Daniel's dying body. Finally, the team gets Daniel's blood pressure high enough that it is safe to continue with the CT scan.
Okay, he's still awake and chatting. Looks good. Okay. So he's going to come over here.
The first swirling images come online. They will reveal the secrets of Daniel's fate and, more importantly, determine the team's next course of action.
So that's why he's in the
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait.
right here, flail chest.
Oh, this is looking good. Not a trace of free fluid in the belly. No big pelvic hematoma.
Daniel's fall battered and tore one of his kidneys, which nearly bled his life away. But with extra blood pumped into him, it will eventually stop bleeding on its own.
This guy non-operatively.
You can bring that arm down now if you want.
My guy here is not going to need the OR. So I want to see, he's the most unstable. I want to get him up to the unit. Yeah. Just no, that kidney's not making urine, is it?
No. Nothing. By mid-delay.
But there are signs that the kidney is failing. If it does not prove viable in the next few minutes,
Now, it's going to be really important that you hold your head still, okay?
the team will have to surgically remove it. Dr. Tremblay calls for the specialists to see if they can find any glimmer of hope that would save Daniel from an invasive surgery and the loss of one of his kidneys. At Sunnybrook and Women's College Health Sciences Center, 59-year-old Daniel Allen is fighting for his life after a 20-foot fall from his roof left one of his kidneys battered and bleeding.
This guy was looking like I'm not going to have to rush him too hard, but look at this kidney, it's perfusing. And the biggest thing that's going to determine what they want to do will be whether or not it's like a functional kidney.
He's dissected or transected right here to the hilum.
Daniel lies unaware that the machine he's lying in and the team that studies its images carry the answers that will set the course of the rest of his life.
What?
So you think this is, they're both blood or one's urine?
It's not an enviable position to decide whether to risk an invasive surgery or gamble that the kidney will heal on its own and renew its vital function. Now only time, technology, and the trauma team's instincts can decide the fate of Daniel Allen. Just days after the fateful decision had to be made about Daniel's kidney, he and his wife are in the recovery ward at Sunnybrook, reflecting on the outcome.
Oh, my kidneys were, I don't know what they
were badly bruised, so they thought they would have to operate, but then they didn't. They did get better on their own, so. But he hasn't walked yet. Like, he hasn't put any weight on his legs, but he will.
And no more ladders, no more getting up on the roof. No more, for sure.
The Allen family, with a new lease on life, has found a new appreciation for the trauma team, whose dedication and hard work kept Daniel alive.
Like, you hear about it on the news that people are taken there, but I guess because you're not involved or anything, you don't know until it happens to you. Yeah, well, we realized they saved his life, you know, and the nurses and the doctors were really good.
Six months after a scenic motorcycle ride turned into tragedy, Brenda Perot is home again and back on her feet.
I could say I'm glad to be alive, you know, because the doctor told my husband at the time of injury there, you know, 20 years ago, I would have been paralyzed.
So I was lucky I never lost her. And hopefully everything turns out okay.
The trauma team has this vibrant grandmother back on track.
But the nurses were so great in the hospital, they showed me how to knit. I'm making a hat for my granddaughter.
Seven weeks ago, young Kevin Raymer was mowed down by a speeding car, permanently altering the course of his life. Only now, pieces of Kevin's mind are slowly falling back in place. With the memories comes the painful yearning for who he was.
You want to know something? The one set of photographs that my friend took were taken based on history, on my history.
In the quartet up
yeah,
there?
Right there. I'm not like that anymore.
But with Kevin's miraculous recovery comes new opportunity.
He will be able now to go to neuro rehab.
Yeah.
And the goals of rehab, I guess, would be for you to resume the bigger things in life.
Yeah,
talking about going back to school. I was wondering, for me, if you could open this package.
I think I can.
Great. See, that's something new. You haven't done that. Excellent.
Kevin, I want you to tell me a story.
And the three bears were so enraptured that they actually missed a meeting to attend Goldilocks' home.
Okay. Well, you know, that's a bit of a different version than what I know, but that's okay. What's really come a long way, Kevin, is that when you speak now, you're not using any made-up words.
Now, do you think he'll want me on the bed?
Yes, I think you will.
It's been 3 months since the accident.
Kevin's mind has become more focused, and now he can control his body. It is clear he is well on the road to a full recovery. Seeing how far Kevin has come, his mother remembers what the trauma team did for her son.
We're so blessed. The whole staff. We just can't say thank you enough. We just so appreciate.
She now knows that what the trauma team did in the first critical hour of the accident is what has made the world of difference for her son.
We know we wouldn't have had a son today.
I've seen the progression I've made, that I'm realizing that it's a time factor, because I am gonna be healed, but it's just when.